Hey, we're Flick and Joe, and this is our dog Walter. In 2022, we made the crazy decision to quit our full-time jobs, pack up our lives, and move aboard our blue water sailing boat. We spent many months refitting her and getting her ready for our plans until one day we actually did it. We cast off the lines, we pointed her south, and off we went. We've now sailed over 1,000 nautical miles, dodging orcas, yes, actually, and most of the rocks along the way. Join us for the beautiful, quite stressful but endlessly eventful life that is full-time living aboard. Hi guys!
Hello! This video is a Q&A video where you guys have submitted some questions and we're going to have a sit down and answer and walk you through some of the answers to those questions. So let's start with the Walter, the dog themed questions.
So,
right on time.
The first question that we had was, can Walter help to reef the sails? He's probably less helpful than me, which is saying quite a lot.
Yeah, Walter's still learning the ropes, so he can't reef the sails. When we're sailing, I guess there's more, I don't know if that's really the question behind that, but when he's sailing, or when we're sailing, he just lies in the cockpit. And if you've watched a bunch of the other videos, you'll see he just lies in the cockpit and he'll snooze. He'll occasionally potter around, he'll get a bit fidgety, and then we just have to sort of reaffirm to him that he needs to settle down and chill. He can't be pottering around the boat or on deck. I don't mind him walking around the cockpit a little bit, but sometimes he wants to like walk onto the deck, and if there's any sort of seas, we don't want him going on deck. He loves watching dolphins and fishes or birds. Anything strange shaped that's floating in the water, he likes to woof at that.
But it'd be cool to know if there are any dogs that do help with sailing. Like, imagine if your dog could like tail the line for you when you're pulling it. That'd be so handy.
You could train him to do that. It's like tug of war, isn't it?
Yeah, that'd be good. Maybe we'll watch this space. You never know. The next question was, how is boat life with a dog? So the pros and cons of having a dog on board. I would say it's a mix. It's mainly just such a joy having him in our lives that we don't have a negative word to say about him. So on the whole, it's been really good, hasn't it? It's been pretty easy.
Yeah.
There's
definite pros and cons. It's all the same pros of having a dog in the normal world, like just the fact that you have a dog and a companion, and it's just, yeah.
Endless entertainment.
Yeah, we don't know what we talked about before we had a dog. Now
No.
All we talk about is Walter. And it's a great argument or like tension killer. So if like one of us is getting a bit sassy with the other, then you can just be like, oh, but look what Walter's doing. Walter's really cute. He's doing something cute, and then it just sort of like diffuses everything.
Yeah.
But the cons that are specific to sailing are getting him in and out of countries. There's a lot of paperwork and red tape. Lots of countries have a lot of red tape around exporting, importing animals. And it's terrifying because if you don't follow that red tape to the letter, then what are they going to do? They're going to turn you away from the country. They're going to take your dog off you. Like, yeah, it's just scary, isn't it?
They threaten like 6 months quarantine if you've not done the paperwork. So for us, we'll probably do a video on this if that would be useful for other boat dog sailors. But yeah, so we sailed him from the UK to Europe, and we had to have special paperwork to get him into the EU because of Brexit, and then from Europe was fine because we got him a Portuguese passport, but then taking him from Europe to Morocco was another like whole load of bureaucracy and paperwork to try and get him across to here. So it's definitely like a lot more hassle, and if we were to go to the Caribbean or other places in the future that aren't
really
in Europe, it's just complicated. Like we have to keep getting him teeter tested, and we have to keep getting paperwork from different vets saying that he's healthy.
The main thing is you have all this paperwork to do, all this red tape, and then you get to the new country, and then the country just doesn't care about any of the paperwork you've got. They're like, oh right, like when we came into Morocco, for example, we said, oh, we have a dog, we have all this paperwork, and they were like, what? And I was like, we have a dog, and he was like, so what? We have dogs in Morocco, and he didn't check any of the paperwork, nothing. And we spent an awful lot of money and time making sure it's all there. But also, on the flip side, if we didn't have any of that, if we didn't have all that paperwork sorted and all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, then it's sod's law that they would be like, where's your dog paperwork? And then, yeah, you don't know what happened with the dog.
Yeah.
Especially when we came to Morocco, for example, we were planning on wintering here for 3 months. So if they turned the dog away, us and the dog, like we actually don't have any real choice of what to do. We'd probably have to it would have been rubbish.
It would have been really rubbish.
So next question is,
well, so the most popular question that we ever get asked whenever we say like, oh, we've got a dog on our boat, they immediately go, where does he go to the loo? That's like the first
everyone loves to know where he goes for a wee and a poop. So on our boat, at least, if we're at anchor in a marina or if we're sailing and it's very flat seas, we'll take him up to the bow, and we used to have some astroturf, like artificial grass there, and he has been trained to use that artificial grass since he was a puppy, because we didn't really have much of a garden in our old house. So he goes up to the bow and he does his business, and then we swill it down with buckets of water, and we doggy bag the poop, or we chuck it overboard. Depends where we are. It depends if we're like offshore sailing, or if we're in an anchorage, we bag it up. If we're at sea or we're doing a big passage, so when we did Biscay or when we sailed from Portugal to Morocco, what we did is we bring the artificial grass down into the cockpit, and he just wheezes. He just follows, he does whatever his business is, he just will do it on the grass. The grass is like the trigger for him. So we put the grass into the cockpit, and he'll do his wheeze and his number twos in the cockpit. And then we do exactly the same. The cockpit has holes at the back of it, because if you have any big waves crashing into the cockpit, it lets the water drain out. And so it lets his wee drain out with the help of buckets of water. You wash it all down, and yeah, it's fine.
The funny thing is that whenever we go to like a restaurant or something now and we take him with us and it's got Astro on the floor, then we have to be really careful, because I think it's sort of like a trigger for him that now as soon as he steps on Astro he just starts weeing.
Yeah, he does.
So we have to be really careful when we go to like an outside restaurant or something and they've got Astro on the floor.
Artificial grass.
Don't. Lots of people ask us how we're funding being on the boat and how we earn money. So to put that into context for you, our outgoings on a boat are really relatively low. If you take out maintenance from it, then your outgoings are really low, because you're cooking for yourself a lot of the time. You don't eat out as much as people think we do. And then in terms of how we're earning money, so we both work part-time. So I'm a freelance marketing consultant for small creative businesses, and Joe's an accountant. And
we both work remotely on the boat using the internet. I do bookkeeping, tax returns and things like that in the UK for small one-man businesses. And then we also have a house in Manchester that we rent out, so we get a little bit of income from that as well. So that's sort of, I guess, three channels of income for us. And then a tax question that we often get mainly from other cruisers that Joe can answer is about income tax. Well, yeah, do we pay income tax? Do you pay income taxes in the countries you're visiting when you're living on the boat? And the answer is that basically we pay UK income tax, because technically we don't really live in the UK anymore, so we could claim that we're non-UK tax residents, but the way our freelance work is structured, it's through a UK limited company, which means we have to pay tax in the UK. Basically, there's ways around it. You can choose to not pay tax, but I don't mind paying tax. Controversial opinion, I like paying tax because yeah, you're paying for a service at the end of the day, and I want to contribute to that.
We know at some point we'll go back to the UK as well, so it's fine us paying UK tax, because hopefully,
yeah,
in an ideal world, that'll be contributing to good things.
Next question is, what inspired a move to a sailboat life? I think I can start answering that one. In lockdown, I started watching lots of YouTube, just in general, because we were renovating a house, and I was watching YouTube to learn how to do stuff on the house. Like, I literally couldn't put up a shelf in a wall without it falling down. So I was watching YouTube videos, learning. And then I stumbled across some channels where people are on sailboats and they're like traveling the world and they're living on them full time, and yeah, they make it work in whatever way they do. And so then I sort of threw the idea out to Flick, like, what if we do that for a bit? And because it was in lockdown, we were all sort of trapped in houses, and it was like, well, we were at a life stage where we have a house, we'd done a pretty chunky renovation on it, and we're like, what next? I don't really want to just buy another house and do another renovation, and we weren't ready to have kids yet. So yeah, the idea came and went, the boat idea, and then it sort of disappeared totally because we had to try and figure out how to fund it as well, like how to physically buy the boat. And then one day you sort of brought it back. You were like browsing Yacht World, and you were like, "Oh, what about this boat and this boat?" And then we went to go see some.
Like probably lots of people, I spend half my life on Rightmove, and then when we were looking at boats, I sort of started. My interest for Rightmove became also in like Yacht World and Apollo Dark and things like that as well. So I just became sort of like obsessed, I guess, with finding interesting boats in our budget on those channels and sending them to Joe. And Joe was like, "Why are you sending these to me if you're saying that we can't go do this?" And I was like, "I'm not saying that we can't go do it. I'm saying that it needs to be the right boat if we're gonna do it." And then we started looking at boats. So I guess in shorthand, in the answer to what inspired us to move onto a sailboat, I guess it's YouTube and understanding that it was possible. Because if you take away YouTube from it, yeah, you can get a bit from social media, or from other formats of social media, but you can't really. Like, I would have had no idea that this was even like a possibility in terms of a lifestyle, and that as a beginner sailor, I think
YouTube's quite good. The YouTube video or format is good because it shows. Yeah, like you only see so much on Instagram. You have short form videos or a post, and it doesn't show you what the realities of the lifestyle is. Whereas YouTube sort of does that better. Well, I think that's another thing. Loads of YouTube channels, because it sells really well, they want to make it look like a really nice lifestyle because it'll be a popular video. But so we'd like to try and keep it slightly real because it is really hard work. It's not just like all the best bits of all of the YouTube channels you see. It is hard work.
What are we most excited about right now? What am I most excited about? I'm really looking forward to being able to be in a clear blue anchorage and swim, and it being really flat and lovely, and being able to swim off the back of the boat. That's what I'm looking forward to, because we've done that a little bit in northern Spain, but it was still quite cold in the water.
I think that's what's the same for me. I'm really excited to start moving again. And so the plan is to go to south coast of Spain and then the Balearics.
And then we'll
just Menorca and Ibiza, and yeah, just really excited to be able to enjoy swimming off the back of the boat basically, because the Portuguese Spanish coast is quite chilly because it's the Atlantic Ocean and the water visibility is never that great, and there's not that many opportunities to swim. Like a lot of the time you're in a marina and you don't really want to be swimming in a marina. Most of the swimming we did was off of the northwest coast of Spain in the Rias,
wasn't it?
Northwest coast of Spain,
and then we did do a bit in the Algarve, but it was
a little
colder.
Bit
it was like November, so naturally all a bit colder. So we're looking forward to as well, like it just getting warmer every day. I guess we'll probably use that clip in the future when we're looking forward to it getting warmer every day, and we'll be like sweating in 40-degree heat, being like, I'm looking forward to it being colder every day.
What has been your most unexpected learning, like a lifestyle element or something? And I think for me this is probably quite easy. Is I think I've learned to. It's definitely like totally unexpected thing that I would never have thought about this when we started moving on a boat. But for me, it's like communicating with you. Flick gets really anxious sometimes whilst we're sailing. Gets like quite bad anxiety about certain things. I think some of that is triggered by the events that have happened to us. Like we lost the prop shaft, we've nearly lost the engine. We hit a rock, like quite big serious events that happen on a boat, and I think it's just taught me how to be, I don't know, way more communicative with you.
Yeah, definitely.
And like direct, whereas I think growing up I'm not particularly communicative as a person.
It doesn't come naturally to you, does it?
Yeah.
But I think that's been actually really good for our relationship as a whole, because you would think that actually these experiences either like break you or make you strong, and it's definitely helped us to communicate better, I think, and helped you to know what to say. Like he used to, if I was getting anxious about something when we first started the sailing trip, he'd just be like, chill, it's fine, like don't stress, it's fine, which for everyone who gets anxious is like, will probably know it's not the most helpful thing to say. Whereas now you'll address whatever the cause of the anxiety is and get me to talk it through, and then be like, this is not something that you need to be anxious about, I think.
Yeah. I think, well, what's yours?
Most unexpected learning. I mean, I don't want to repeat what you said, but I think mainly like that I've never been, well, okay, so I've always been a worrier, but I would never say I had anxiety or I get anxious about stuff unnecessarily, whereas now I definitely do. And that's been more like a personal development thing that I've been trying to address, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to talk about it yet. One day I will.
So, I mean, another question some people ask sometimes, this is moving back to Walter, is does he molt? And the answer is yes, he malts.
No.
I don't know if you can see these little ginger hairs.
No, that's wrong. What they say is, oh, it must be really nice because he's so short-haired he doesn't molt. And then they have like a hug with him and they're covered in little tiny ginger hairs.
whole
And
pile
they're
of
like,
little
oh, I
ginger
thought he
hairs.
didn't molt. He does.
That's
does.
No, don't eat it. Leave it, please.
Sniffing.
Thank you.
Let's put that out of frame.
Good
It's
boy.
not very nice to look at. What's the one thing on Nendaz that brings us the most joy?
Yeah, I think that's a very easy answer, actually. This
Yeah.
has to be Walter.
Yeah. Exclusively Walter.
If you had to say not something that's Walter, what would it be? If it was like a boat thing.
The
Oh,
moment that I have had the most joy was when you towed me on the paddleboard behind the dinghy, and well,
No, but what's the one thing? It has to be a thing.
Yeah, but that can be a thing. The
Okay,
paddleboard.
Yeah. I don't think that counts. I think it has to be like. I think it's meant to be like an item. You know, like do you love the air fryer, or like do you like having, I don't know, a TV screen there? Or...
Oh, that's tough. Oh, I know. Okay, so having the iPad above our bed.
Oh yeah.
So good.
iPad
Why
above
am I
the bed
so
is probably
basic?
actually yeah. We're very simple people.
It's like, okay, we live in this really off-road life, but iPad and Netflix, it's really handy. Another thing that brings me a lot of joy is Starlink, particularly when we don't have it at the moment and we're noticing the difference. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, Starlink is just so good. It's just basically super quick internet, no data cap, and you can get internet basically anywhere.
But it's just so nice
it's
when
very
we're,
good.
as we said earlier, like we're trying to work and stuff like that. Having really fast internet just makes it so much more possible. I saw an article the other day about boat prices going up because of Starlink. Where do you see yourselves in 5 and then in 10 years' time?
This is a good question.
I think in terms of our plan going forward, we talked a bit earlier about like anxiety and how I feel sailing. So we're now focusing on that for like the next year and just seeing how that goes when we're in the med, and seeing whether hopefully there's been enough time and positive experiences since we had our series of unfortunate events that the anxiety will become more rationalised, and yeah, we'll be able to gradually
Is everything okay, sir?
gradually enjoy sailing again more. And he's leaning so heavily against me. Oh darling. So yeah, I mean, if it really depends, we basically don't know, but we're going to trial it for the next year, see how that goes, see how we enjoy it, and if we're not enjoying it, or if I'm not enjoying it, I'm really struggling still, then we will aim to go home, and if we are enjoying it, then we'll stay on for a bit longer, I think.
Yeah.
And then longer than that, at some point we want to have kids, but we don't know when, we don't know where, so that's all we know.
Yeah. Well, we don't think the boat thing is like a past 5-year thing.
No,
No.
no.
I think it's a couple of years, depending on everybody enjoying it. Do we still love it? If we don't love it, then we'll just move on and do something else.
Yeah.
We'd really like to buy like a piece of land or a old derelict or very neglected farmy type building, and sort of totally renovate it and turn it into something really pretty.
Yeah.
And just live in the countryside and do some off-grid style stuff on land one day. So this question is from our friends Tailu Tribe, who are another YouTube channel, and they basically said, when are you coming over to this side? We miss you. And they've just crossed from Cape Verde to the Caribbean. I think they're in Antigua at the moment. So do we have a plan to go across the Caribbean? And it sort of links back to the last question, which is, where do we see ourselves in 2 to 5 years? So this coming spring and summer, we're gonna basically be in the med, and then we'll take it from there. If we're still enjoying the boat life, we might dash back to the Canaries or Cape Verde to then do a Caribbean crossing. Although it's pretty it's probably less likely than more likely, I'd say. And my main reason for that, or our main reason for that, is taking Walter across. So I just don't know how I feel about taking him across on what would be potentially a 2.5 week passage if we went from Cape Verde across the Atlantic. It's just a long time for him to be on a boat and not be able to go anywhere. The longest passage we did with him was across Biscay, and that was about 4 days. And he was okay. Like, the first 18 hours was really rough, so he couldn't really move. He just couldn't move down below because he would just literally be sliding along on the wooden floor, and it felt harsh. And it meant he'd struggle to drink water, or he'd struggle to eat his food because he'd be sliding around. So in the end, he was like in our bed, and we'd take him a bowl of food and stuff like that. He wasn't seasick or anything, but he just really couldn't move because his feet just can't grip on the floor. Like, so I just don't know if I would feel comfortable sort of taking him across 2 weeks of ocean crossing. And I know that it won't be rough all the time, but I don't know. My main worry is if we get him across and it was a rubbish experience for him, then at some point we have to get Walter back. It's not like if we sailed across the Atlantic, just us two, and we hated it, or we never wanted to sail back, we could just sell the boat over there, and yeah, we might not get as much money for it, or blah blah blah, but we have to get Walter back somehow. I don't really want to fly him because he's quite an anxious dog anyway, and I think flying would not be good for him. So that's the big question on whether we come across the Caribbean. Next question is, when will you be in Croatia and when can I visit? This is from a friend. Our friend Clemmy Swift, who is an artist, Clementine Swift artist. We'll put a link in the description. She's a very cool screen print artist.
Okay.
So
biggest pet peeves about each other.
Yeah.
Bring it.
My biggest pet peeve.
Make it think for a while, so it's not like an
about each other. It isn't an instant thing.
Okay.
Your shower bag.
Yes.
You have Flick has this shower bag, this ginormous shower bag full of all sorts of gizmos and creams and gadgets and whatever, I don't know. And it's always just put in the most annoying place in the world. So it's always on the stairs, and then you end up stumbling over it, or it's always just as you're coming out the companionway and you end up tripping over it. Like, it's just always in the way. I think and I always ask you to move it, please move it, please move it, and then yeah, it always manages to be in my way. I can't think of any. I'll have a think of something else.
You can't think of anything else.
Putting water bottles in the sink.
Yeah, you get very annoyed about that as
Flick
well.
puts stuff in the sink that's clean, and then it's like, well, now it's not clean. Now you've got to wash it, and then it just stays in the sink for like a good, it'll stay in the sink for half a day or something. Like, it won't just immediately wash it up until eventually I get bored and then I wash it up. Yeah.
I don't have any pet peeves because he's perfect.
Very clever.
No, I'm joking. I have many. What's a good one? Probably the main gripe that just really pisses me off is
my tools.
His tools.
Yeah.
They're everywhere all the time, and he never puts them away. And then he's always like, "Oh, I'm so tidy." I'm like, "You're not."
You can't put them away mid-job though.
Yeah, but 3 days later they can go away.
Yeah, I'm still mid-job. It's a long job.
Yeah, so therefore they go away. And his tool room is impossible to navigate because nothing is ordered in there. For an organised person as well, nothing is ordered. And it's his bedroom and he gets very upset about it too.
I know where everything is though. Oh, okay. He's very upset by it.
Very upset. And then he also has a really large, extensive collection of tape, which I bought these like cool little storage things on the side, thinking we'd be able to organise his tools. But actually 3 of them, there's 6, 3 are just tape. So, yeah. Really annoying.
Yeah. I don't think we have anything nasty though to say about each other. Just little nags.
The nav table really annoys me. I used to work 4.5 days a week. I now work 2.5 or 3. But Joe would always sit at the nav table just scrolling YouTube or whatever, and I'd be stuck sitting in the galley table.
Okay, that's very dramatic. Very dramatic.
And now he says that he needs to have the nav table to be able to edit YouTube videos. Do we have roles on the boat and who does what?
Do you have roles? Oh.
El Capitan. What are our roles?
Yeah, I'm the captain. I'd say not formal roles, but I think I do more boat jobs generally, which usually means that I'm finishing boat job by the end of the day, or tidying up, or just grumpy or hungry, and then so you end up cooking food more often than I would.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably fair.
Which isn't how it used to be. I'd say we used to cook 50-50, or I would cook... probably, I wouldn't say I ever cooked more. Pretty 50-50, yeah.
I think. But now
but
it's
just
more
sort of
like
makes sense with the boat
80-20.
jobs, because I just, definitely do a fair share of boat jobs.
Yeah. And then I spend my whole life tidying the boat because he's doing boat jobs all the time. It's really messy.
Yeah, but we both tidy the boat. That's not fair. Stop pretending to be Cinderella. Not Cinderella.
Oh, talking about cooking, what do we cook? So I think we would love to be those people who go to like the markets and we buy fresh fish and we cook it, but we're just not brave enough yet. So we have a lot of vegetarian food. We're
like probably 80% veggie, aren't we? I think we're in Morocco now, and I think this is the least veggie we've been in a long time. But that's because meat is in every meal pretty much in Morocco. If you ask to get a veggie meal, it is very basic. It's just some potatoes and some carrots. Like, there's not a lot of veggie options.
Yeah.
Unless you go to like fancier restaurants, and we're trying to stay low budget.
Yeah.
But I'd say we cook everything you cook at home basically. We've got a two burner induction hob that we cook on. We can boil water and whatever, fry things on that, and that's run by the batteries. And we've also got a Ninja dual oven air fryer thing, which we can, it's basically just a miniature oven, and we do everything in there. We've baked chocolate fondants. You've done banana bread in there, haven't you? And we've done roast potatoes and
banana bread again. That was so nice.
Yeah, it was very yummy. I love banana bread.
Got NutriBullets, so we do lots of smoothies.
Yeah, we've got little NutriBullets. You can do smoothies, or you can blitz like red peppers into a nice tomatoey red pepper sauce. Like, we cook everything you do at home basically.
Yeah.
We're mostly vegetarian and occasionally eat meat.
And we now have a freezer, so we can batch cook stuff, freeze it, and then have it later on.
What other sailing YouTubers do you watch regularly? I watch definitely a lot more YouTube than you do, or at least sailing ones.
Yes. Well, in general, I don't really spend that much time on YouTube, whereas you spend most of your life on YouTube.
Yeah, I learn everything I know from YouTube pretty much, and occasionally reading.
Not my parents, from YouTube.
Yeah, pretty much YouTube is. Yeah, it's just an amazing free library of information. And
it is good.
Yeah,
I think the ones that you watch are like Sail Life. What's the
Sail Life, Delos, Sailing Indiana, Taylor Tribe, Kadoa. I like the British channels because I don't know, we're British and there's some sort of affinity there.
And also you can kind of recognise some areas that they go to.
Yeah, and that's nice. Watch Wildling Sailing, Samson Boko, one of my favourite YouTubers.
Well, I've more watched like the videos rather than channels, but I love boat tours. So my favourite boat tour video is Sailing Uma's boat tour.
Yeah, they do
so
a nice boat tour.
Such a nice boat. And I like watching Riley and Elena on Vagabond and Ryan and Sophie. I love Ryan and Sophie.
Of course, Ryan and Sophie, yeah. A walkthrough of the electrical system. How do we power the boat? Where does the power come from, or how is it stored? What size inverter do we have? I could probably do a whole separate video on this at some point.
To go into
quite a lot of boring detail, but some people find really interesting. I find it really interesting, and I'm sure some other guys. I mean, the question was asked.
Why don't they vote in the comments? Like, let us know if you want a whole video on it, or if you just want like
I'll give a very quick summary. But stop being just because you don't find it interesting. Other people find it interesting. They've asked. Everyone always asks about your battery setup and stuff.
Yeah.
We have 3 Renogy 200 amp hour Life PO4 like lithium batteries. Are you just that's it? You're gone.
I'm joking. I was doing that for the clip.
We have 3 200 amp hour lithium batteries that stores all of our electricity, and we have a 3000 watt inverter, which is 230 volts, because all of our appliances are UK European appliances, and to charge up those batteries we've got 700 watts of solar, and we've also got a 2200 watt generator, and then we've also got a DC-DC charger that takes power from the starter battery, which is charged by the alternator, and moves it to the lithium battery. So that's how we generate power. We store it in the batteries. The inverter turns it into 230 volts for where we need it. So the thing that uses the most power is the cooking. So the induction hob is electric, and the Ninja air fryer is electric, both to 230 volts. And they, at max power, they'll draw 3000 watts on their own. So it means we can only run one side of the hob and the oven, one side of the oven at the same time. You can't really do both. Anyway, cooking takes about 10-15% of our batteries, but then when we wake up in the morning, the sun comes up, then yeah, we regenerate with solar. Are we saving up for an electric engine? And the answer is no. As we've probably talked about already, we're not 100% sure what we're going to do with the boat, how long we keep it. It depends how much we enjoy it and love it, or how much we don't. So an electric engine is such a ginormous investment.
How much are they?
Well, the electric engine itself is, let's say, thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars. And then you also need a additional like lithium battery bank to go with that to power the
Oh, I see.
engine.
And then you need enough power to charge those.
Yeah, and you'd have to do a big rejig of space. An electric motor is a lot smaller,
Yeah.
so there'd be a lot more space in the engine room.
Yeah.
Which means you could maybe fit batteries in there.
Yeah.
And the other big thing is obviously you'd get rid of your diesel tank.
Yeah.
And so you can put batteries where the diesel tank is.
Yeah.
But it's just a pretty big job. It's a big job and it's a lot of money. And I don't think, it's very unlikely that we'd do it. The other thing I've seen is I watched a really good video. I can put a link somewhere. It's SV Delos, and it's Brian talking about whether he'd ever go to an electric engine, and his conclusion is no. Like, he has some requirements for like cruising around the world. He wants to always be able to cruise a certain amount of miles on like one tank of electricity or fuel, and the amount of batteries that he'd need to be able to do that, it's improbable. It's improbable. It's impossible. He can't have that many batteries in the boat to be able to do it. I think people do the electric motor thing, but it's expensive, and I think it would limit you quite a lot in what you can do.
Well, is that
when we were doing the passages down the Portuguese coast, like you couldn't have the days we did when we just motored for 11 hours because we had to see some friends, or we set off and the wind just wasn't there. Yeah. We'd have had to turn back round and go back to the marina, or accept the fact that we're going to be sailing overnight, do loads more overnight sailing.
Yeah, so it makes sense maybe if you're in the Bahamas and you just
if you've only ever got short trips and motoring to do. But the Bahamas, all the Caribbean's got big trips as well between some of the islands. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So yeah, that's our thoughts on electric engines.
I had one more question.
I think the technology is not quite there yet. Basically, it's too expensive, and we need better battery tech.
I have another question. Yeah. What would you say is the hardest thing that you've experienced, like transitioning to being on a boat?
That's a good question. I think the hardest thing, I don't know, the hardest thing in general.
Yeah.
Because it was hard when we first moved onto the boat, because the boat was so when we first moved onto the boat, there was no battery electrical system really at all. The batteries that were there were very they were damaged lead acid batteries, and it basically meant you couldn't really do much. Like the lights, it would barely turn the lights on, so it was sort of luxury camping, or not even luxury. It was like, it was just very camping on the boat for a while. Whereas now it's like very much homely. We can run anything we want electricity wise, and it makes it feel nice. Walter's just gone for a snooze.
Yes.
It's a good boy. What's your hardest thing?
Probably friends and family. I spend a lot of time on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Chatting to people that way.
Yeah, I think friends and family is hard, but yeah, I think the pros definitely outweigh that.
But we've been really lucky that lots of people have come out to see us already, and hopefully lots of people will continue to come out and see us, so that's really nice.
Because I was thinking about this the other day when I was in the shower, and I was like, this lifestyle is just so interesting, because think if we were at home in Manchester, we'd never have met any of these people, or we'd still be doing the same old thing in Manchester in the same group of friends. We wouldn't have met any of these different people, or it just thrusts you into meeting other people. It kind of forces you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And everyone's sort of in the same position, so all of the sailing cruising community, everyone is in the same position, so everyone is so friendly and like welcoming as well. Imagine if you just talked when like we're walking up and down the marina. Imagine if you did that in the street. You just went up and started talking to some person and be like, "Hi, lovely to meet you." And
people are really skeptical.
You don't really have that. We had a nice little community on our road, but even then, it's not as friendly as like what the sailing community is. And it's not just like in Morocco where we are now. It's like every marina you go to.
Yeah.
Everyone is just so friendly.
Yeah.
And I just really love that.
I think that's an element of that is probably because everyone's in the same boat, that you don't have your like established friendship network, so you're really open to having new friends.
It's sort of like when we go backpacking travelling by, but it's just not. It's just really nice. I love it. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favourites.
The hard bit is like your parents, your family, friends, your grandparents, and you don't get to see them so often.
Yeah.
And I think actually the hard thing, my hardest thing is routine.
Yeah.
You don't get any routine, and for me, everybody likes routine. We're all creatures of habit, aren't we? And I like to do lots of running, and it's good for my brain, my mental health, and I like to stay fit just in general. And when you're traveling or like sailing around lots, it's quite hard to do that. Like if you do a big long sail, it's dark or pretty much dark when you come in, and you don't want to go for a run. You're tired. It's tiring just sitting in deck all day, because you kind of like have to focus all day on not hitting something or not running over a fishing buoy, and it tires you out, so you're just like basically ready for bed, and it's sometimes hard to get your exercise in or to look after yourself.
That's true.
I think that's the hardest adjustment. So how many miles can you motor on a full tank? And I just need to check my phone because I have a calculation of it. So we have a tank fuel capacity that is either 120 litres or 150 litres. We aren't 100% sure. So if you know somebody with a Gypsy 402, or if you have a Gypsy 402 and you know your fuel tank size, can you please let us know? But assuming we have a tank capacity of 150 litres and we've got 2 jerry cans that can fit another 20 litres each, you have 190 litres of fuel, and at about 2.5, 2.3 litres an hour of fuel burning, and like a roughly 5-knot boat speed, we should be able to go about 365 miles. And so I'll sit back up. I'm slouching. Come on. You coming up?
Slightly.
Slowly more and more reclined. Oh God, I hope not. Well, up. Come on. In you come. In you come now. So, Walter's joined us for the finale. But that wraps up all of our little Q&A session. So
if you have any other questions that we've not answered, then let us know in the comments.
Whack them in the comments and we'll reply and try and do nice detailed responses for you.
And if you'd like to know more about the dog on board, or if you think that would be helpful, we can pull together a video on that, and the same thing for the power stuff.
Yeah.
Power. And don't ask us for a video on cooking, because there are plenty of other YouTubers who do it much better than us.
Why are you like negging yourself? You can cook.
You should go follow Sailing Indiana. They do really good food.
Yeah. Okay.